and this is Families Grow Together show number 10. Today, we are talking about how cultures influence emotions, and I will be presenting this today with the hope that Aqua will join us later.
I'm
So,
here.
for the agenda today, we have how cultures explain emotions, becoming aware of cultural differences, the facts about emotions, and there are some questions. And at the end of this presentation, we will have some discussions, conversations. Bring in type in the comments for those on Facebook so we can read and share what you've written on the comment. And if you have any questions, share that with us as well. Just remember, everything you do is triggered by an emotion, either for desire or fear. That is by Brian Tracy. Okay, so how cultures explain emotions. Emotions is something between people rather than something that lives inside of an individual. And this is by a research carried out by Mesquita, who found out that cultures interpret emotions very differently. Some cultures will present their feelings, emotions differently. However, there are some universal emotions that emerge from interactions from other people. And this is always the interaction that happens within the framework of a culture. One of or some of the universal emotions are happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, surprise. This one from several research that they've done, they found that there are seven actually, that there are universal emotions that are used in every culture. Some of them might vary, some might have a bit more, some might have a bit less. Some cultural aspects seems natural, unquestioned, and unspoken because like most of us, when we are growing up, there are so many things that we don't even talk about. We don't even question. We don't even think that we can question so many things. And emotions is one of those things. I will talk and I always refer to the African community because I belong in the African community. I am from Cameroon and I know emotion is something that we did not really talk about. So that's why our emotions seem to be natural, unquestioned, and unspoken. These emotions seem to be natural response to our community, to our environment. Some cultures have no words to describe certain emotions. So, when do you become aware of cultural differences? Some environments, like I said, do not have words to describe emotions, whereas others have so many. For instance, in Western cultures, they have different words to describe sadness. For instance, unhappy, miserable, gloomy, down, blue, dejected, depressed. Whereas in others, they have just sad or not happy, and that will be all. So, because other cultures do not have a wide variety of words to describe certain emotions, their vocabulary is limited. Because of that, it restricts them on how they explain emotions. But you need to note that your own emotions are not a natural response, they are cultural. Just going back again, emotions come from your thoughts. So when a situation happens, you think about it first. So it starts from thoughts. Is influenced by your environment, by your culture, by your community. Because, for instance, if say you do something wrong and say somebody you feel that is in authority, say your parent or your teacher or anyone in authority, say, oh, you are stupid. The first feeling, most probably, is that you feel hurt. That, oh, how can someone tell me that I'm stupid? But again, because you've seen that person as someone in authority, you dare not talk back or you dare not respond, else you'll get into more trouble. So then that is how the culture shapes your emotion, because you will feel hurt, but you will not talk about it. And sometimes you will adapt to the cultural norms to say, oh, it's okay, it's normal. And because of that, so many people, I have seen this in what I do as a life coach and in my job as a social worker, and even talking with friends, because I have many different hats. People really struggle because the things that they took as normal when growing up, it is really, really affecting them now because it changes their perception of themselves, of others, and how they relate with their environment. So be aware of various emotions and know how to express them, as that gives you perspectives on your own emotions. So if you feel that someone says something to you, examine how does that make you feel. You might just feel very uncomfortable. You might not know how to describe how you feel, but you know it's not right. So if you are not right, you don't feel that what that person has told you is right, and then you go ahead and say to some other person that you are stupid, know that that person will feel bad the same as you did. So that is the emotion, but culturally, it's not spoken of. So always link to the feeling that you experience when something happens. All this can provide you with a different understanding of your emotions. You can learn, get into, look for thesaurus, look for synonyms, just expand your vocabulary on emotions. So then, what are the facts about emotions? We experience many different emotions on a daily basis. Imagine if we experience these various emotions on a daily basis and we don't talk about them, especially those that makes us feel, I would say, the negative ones or the undesired ones. It leads to so many other things. And gradually you start believing in what you've heard. I'm sure you've heard of something called the self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't talk about it, you keep repeating that same thing in your head. And then you start acting out what the person or what someone calls you. And that is what the self-fulfilling prophecy is. Emotions are feelings associated with thoughts or experiences. Suppressing or excessively distracting our emotions can be very destructive, just like I've explained, as this can limit our life choices and chances. Because imagine you, from being young, you are told that you are stupid. I'll keep using stupid because I just want to be consistent. Say you are being stupid, and there as a child, say as a 5-year-old, you look at that adult and you know you can't talk back because that is how the society, the culture has, that's a cultural norm. You don't talk back to elders. Then that one, you start believing that, okay, that one forms part of your belief system. So then you just carry on with those beliefs, you build your values around and your mindset. And when you get to the age of 20, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50, whatever age, you are still functioning on that level as a 5-year-old. And which is why when you find yourself, say, with your boss, your manager, your superior at work, or even at family levels, you struggle to explain yourself. So this is how it limits our life choices and chances. And punishing yourself for feeling a certain way. Since we feel these feelings are natural, these emotions are natural, but where the problem comes from is how you deal with those emotions. So then, just question yourself, are there any recurrent undesirable emotions you experience? When there are undesirable emotions that you experience, ask yourself, what are the reasons that you experience those emotions? And how are the emotions impacting your life right now? For this one, the reason why I have chosen these questions on the negative aspects is so you develop awareness on the things that make you angry, upset, irritable, and unhappy. Whereas on the other side, I'll say the good experiences or the emotions that you desire, like happiness, joy, those are the good ones. You look into those as well and see whatever you did to feel those emotions and keep those ones. You don't have to do away with all your emotions. It's for you to know the ones that are impacting on your life and the ones that are supporting you. So just like Eckhart Tolle said, awareness is the greatest agent for change. Sometimes from my experience, talking to people, that change is very important. And for change to take place, we need to go back to explore, to expose the things that we are scared of. But for most people, what they are scared of or their fears, they avoid going there. But the truth is, when you avoid your fears, you spend a lot of energy because internally you are thinking of the fear a lot. Whereas if you deal with the fears, be courageous to face the fears, it will be once and for all because you develop different strategies to deal with the fear instead of running away from the fears. So thank you so much. This is it from me. I'll just stop sharing and go back to the main screen to see if Aqua has succeeded with her internet. So Aqua, I can see you on the screen.
I know. Yeah, I've joined on my phone. The
Okay.
internet is still very unstable, so be
Ah,
careful. Mhm. So yes, so thank you for that presentation. That was lovely. There's so many things that we can pick out from that. At first, I want to first of all ask you a question before we continue. What is culture? Let's know exactly what we define as culture so that when we're talking about it, we should know what we're looking at. So is it a culture like a community? Is it culture like in the workplace? Is it culture in the family? What is culture?
so culture.
Just try to adjust this.
I will just define culture generally as it is, as the dictionary says. So culture is defined as the ideas, customs, and social behavior of a particular people or society. So it could be work culture, it could be community culture, it could be family culture. So it depends. A group of people, they have their norms, their behaviors. So yeah, that is culture. It's not limited to a particular thing. It's just a group of.
Okay, thank you, Nelly. So, sorry about the noise in the background. What I wanted to ask you, we talked about some common emotions that are felt by well, in most cultures, and the fact that some cultures don't have words to describe these emotions. Can you please elaborate more on the very common ones that we feel on a daily basis? Because you said you can feel 100 different emotions on a daily basis. What are some of those common things, like if you, let's take for a typical day when you start your day, what are some of the things that you might feel going through the day and which we should take note of? Some of those triggers, not really the triggers, but some of those emotions that come. Tony Robbins calls it communication signals. What are those signals that you can pick up in order to pay attention to?
Okay, thank you so much for that, Aqua. Triggers are different for everyone. So, which is why it is important for you to be aware of your own triggers. I can only say for myself, because in my life, I am the expert in my life, and you are, and you watching, you are the expert in your lived experiences. So, for me, when I wake up in the morning, some things that make me really upset, or I used to be really upset, but I think because now I'm aware of, I don't get upset, but I know the triggers. For instance, waking up in the morning and waking up my children to get ready for school, sometimes it's really hard for them to get out of bed. And the trigger there is not that they are not getting up. The trigger for me is I know I will end up dropping them. And there are two of them, and their schools are far apart. And if I am to drop both of them, I start thinking it means I will start work like 1 hour late. So for me, the trigger is that I will start my work late because my children did not wake up early. For some people, being in traffic, because I talk about traffic because like going to school, you see people, they are so agitated, they're sitting and they're turning like that in the car. And sometimes they're just hitting the steering because there's something that probably the traffic that is triggering them. So it's for each and everyone to be aware of their triggers, because no, people might have similar triggers, but they will not all be the same. And one other, so that one is the undesirable emotion. But on the other side, happiness, I find happiness in, I would say, the silly things that I just find so enjoyable. And I think this has come over time. Like before, I didn't used to see the actual beauty in flowers or in plants, but my whole mindset changed last year when I had burnout. And I don't know if it's the way I experience nature, but like now, even the flowers I have in my garden, I see them very differently. And I'm thinking, this has been there. Why have I not been seeing the beauty? And sometimes I just find myself staring at the flowers, and sometimes I just laugh and I talk to the flowers, and I just feel so happy. So sometimes when you experience things, it is more it is more than just the knowledge, because the knowledge means nothing, but the experience is massive. So again, I cannot say other people's triggers. I can only say mine. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, on mute.
Okay, thank you, Nelly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, different things trigger us, especially as moms. You have the responsibility of getting up, waking the kids up, making breakfast, making sure that they're going to school. And when you know that, I end up always shouting in the end because it's like, wake up, wake up. What are you guys doing up there? why is nobody down here now? So yes, and sometimes it just becomes the norm because you just get on with it and you shout and then you go on. But you don't really think about what is going on in you that is making you shout. So I always go back to either Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins. Jim Rohn says, experience the day. Don't just go through the day. Take from the day. And like you said, there's so many emotions that you feel in a day. And if you pay attention to certain ones, even this afternoon, I was thinking about what we're going to discuss today. And I was thinking about the fact that sometimes we don't want to feel certain emotions, like sadness, like rejection, like anger. Sometimes you pretend that you're angry and you pretend that you're not angry. There's certain emotions that we pretend we don't want to feel because maybe we know how it manifests outwardly, maybe in a negative way. And so we suppress them. But the suppression of those emotions bring a lot of negative consequences. And that is what I've realized in the past year. So how would you, or what would you suggest to people who struggle with really getting in touch with their emotions?
Okay, thank you for that question, Aqua. Yes, so emotions, there are so many layers to emotions. But I think the first part that you need to go, or anyone who is struggling with their emotions need to start doing, is to decide, because it starts with the decision. The choice is only you who can make that choice. First of all, decide what you want to do. Do you want to face the fears, or do you want to keep running away from the fears? And like you said, when you are avoiding to deal with those emotions, they drain you of your energy because you spend a lot of time thinking of what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So when you decide that you want to, whatever you decide on, but for me, I will go to, you decide to take the courage to face the fears. There are so many different exercises that you can do, but it's for you to identify what are those fears. Because the thing is, everyone knows their solutions to the problems they face, because the problems, it is interpreted in their head as a problem. And as they have narrated it as a problem, they have a solution as well. But unfortunately, so many people do not have the courage to face whatever those emotions are. So look into your emotions. What are the things that are triggering those emotions that you don't like? Be honest with yourself, because like you said, sometimes we just want to dodge away, because you see a lot of people just lie to themselves. And when you continue lying, obviously you get the results that you didn't hope for. So
Yes,
just be
because
honest, be
this
frank, be
deception is the
brutal to
worst kind of
yourself with the
deception.
truth, and find out what the triggers are, because you're not getting the information from outside of yourself. All the information is within you. So yeah, that will be the starting point. But sometimes people are they are so drenched in their emotions that they don't see any way out. If you have got to that very low point of your life, speak to a professional, because in my experience, speaking to family members, they will tell you, or family members, especially those who are not aware of their own emotions either, they'll tell you, oh, you'll be fine over time. Just leave it. And one that I find that us Africans we talk about is, oh no, those emotions are white people stuff. We don't need to talk about our emotions. No, it's not true. Which is why you have so many myths around emotions like it's a sign of weakness, it's a sign that you can't control yourself, and so many. But no, if you experience it, talk about it. If you get to a low point, look for a professional, because if you talk to a family member, they don't know any much better. So they will keep giving you what the culture knows about it. And which is why sometimes you see people, they keep it and they hurt themselves because they just feel that they are an outcast because no one understands them. And they sometimes they say you are just making that up when actually they are really, really struggling. So look for a professional who will understand you, who will not judge you, and who will help you to be able to over to be able to understand and manage your emotions better. I don't know if I've answered the question.
Oh, you have. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right. So, from what I gather, the important thing is to identify what that emotion is that you're feeling. And then go back and ask questions about why you are feeling this way. So, what is it about this trigger, or what is it about that person, or what is it about this environment that is making me feel this way? Is it me? Is it the other person? Or is it the environment that is triggering this emotion? So we have to go down to the roots and find out what is the cause. Where is the emotion coming from? That what is I getting it right?
Yeah, but I'll just want to add something there. You know, your environment and other people, they might seem to be the trigger, but they are never the root cause. The root cause is within you. Because, okay, for instance, no one can make you angry unless you choose to be angry. The first time I heard that, I was like, how can that be? But that's the truth, because you consent to the trigger from another person or from your environment, and then you choose to get angry. Because if you choose not to get angry, the behavior will still be there, but you will decide that you will not get angry. But it takes a lot of work for you to get to that point where you just refuse that people's behaviors will make you angry, for instance.
Okay, thank you for that. That is something that I have been learning and working through. Things I learned from Tony Robbins that it is what you describe. It is the words that you use to describe an event or a situation that causes you, that generates the different kind of emotions that you feel. So something can happen, and the way you describe that situation is what is going to make, how it's going to determine what you feel about that situation, isn't it? So you can slap me, and I choose to say, oh, maybe Nelly is a bit irritated today. What's going on? Or somebody can bankrupt you, they can steal your money. And you can choose to describe it as, well, they've stolen all my money, or how could they betray me like that? Or you can choose to say, maybe they really needed it for something. And then it will change. You still get upset about it, but the emotions that you put on it will be, that you describe it, will make you feel differently. So for example, you can say that I feel devastated about what has just happened, or I feel a bit irritated about it. So the way we describe the event or the situation determines how we feel about it. And Joyce Meyer always says, when I heard this thing for the first time, says, where the mind goes, the man follows. So you said emotions begin from our thoughts. So which means that when you start thinking about these things, if you start seeing yourself going down the rabbit hole of depression, stop in your tracks and say, what am I thinking about? And if you go back and you see where the thought started and you see what you're dwelling on, it will definitely tell you where the emotions began from. So thank you for that. One thing I would like to ask as well is how, because one of the facts about emotions that you gave was the fact that emotions can limit our life choices and chances. Can you give us an example of how that can manifest?
Okay, yeah, thanks for that question, Aqua. So it can limit our life choices and chances. I'll take one example at the top of my head that I feel is really, really common now. Relationships, whether relationship with yourself, relationship with your family, relationship with your boss, with your manager, with your colleagues, with your spouse, relationship in general. Okay, if say you growing up, you were unable to express yourself because of something happened, and you saw that person, the authority figure, and that is where the root cause is coming from. But then you grow over time, and because you suppressed that emotion, you are not talking about the emotions, and you feel that anger. So then you will get up, or when you are in a relationship, you will not be able to express yourself because that's something you've not been doing for so many years, not being able. Sometimes you open your mouth to speak. Oh no, I won't say it. So those kind of things. So then imagine you are with your close ones. There's things are going on in your head and you struggle to express yourself, but then you assume that other people will understand you. People don't read your minds. So you need to talk about it. So which is why relationships are easily shattered, they're easily affected because we don't express ourselves, and that anger, we keep suppressing it. Whereas if we learn like where the root cause is, and we start working gradually to be talking about the emotions, we'll realize that we'll be talking, and again, things will just sort out themselves when we look at the root cause instead of finding out the symptoms. For instance, relationships again. Okay, let's say relationship with your manager or at your job site. If say you are not having a good relationship with your manager because you want your manager only to listen to what you say, whereas you don't communicate effectively, and then you're like, oh, you know what, it's my manager, I'll leave and go to another job. You go to the next job, the same thing, and the same thing, and it keeps on going. The problem is not that the managers you meet are the same or have the same attitude. The problem is that you carry that attitude to wherever you go to. And that is how it will limit your life choices, because it might be you left an organization that had prospects, or your prospects were there, but then you left because you couldn't cope with it. And then that moving here and there, changing, to an extent, you might get frustrated and you'll give up. So then you might say, oh, probably is the kind of job that I'm doing, I can just do a different kind of job. So that's you changing your career. And then at the end, you will not find satisfaction in the many different things that you try to do, because you're avoiding that emotion and the root cause.
Thank you very much. That is so so true. I was listening to Simon Sinek the other day. He was talking about how millennials are struggling emotionally at this moment because they haven't been able to grow emotionally, to be emotionally resilient, because they've grown up in that generation where they're pampered, now they feel entitled to this or they feel entitled to that. But when they have not had the opportunity to learn how to manage the emotions, and he was saying that in the past, we had different environments in which we developed these different skills. So we went to the church for our spiritual growth. We in community with friends and families that give us that social booster, or so to speak. But now, where people get their everything is in the workplace. In the workplace, they find the mentor. They want somebody to guide them. They want somebody on whom to dump their stresses from home. So in the work environment now, people are feeling burnt out. So he said that he had a small team and 3 people quit. And he was asking himself, why have they quit? And they said that they were burnt out. And he said, I know what they do. I know their workload. Why are they burnt out? So as they were discussing this, it came out that these people were empaths. So everybody comes to them and dumps on them. So it's not the work that impacted them. It was what other people's emotions were impacting on them, or other people's problems. They'll come to them and dump on them. And they would listen because they are that kind of person. But because it was too much, just quit. But because of fear of confrontation, because they were scared of telling these people that, look, what you're doing to me, I don't want to listen to this anymore. Please find a therapist or whatever. Find somebody else to dump on. They couldn't, because of that fear of confrontation, for that fear of expressing themselves, because they haven't had the training to do it, or they haven't had the opportunities to be able to do it. So he was talking about how these days people use text more than anything else. Rather than have a physical face-to-face conversation, they'll text each other, and they'll quit the job by text. They'll quit the relationship by text. So it's important that we teach our children resilience. It's important that we teach them how to communicate and deal with conflict, so that they're equipped to be able to stand up for themselves, not necessarily to fight, but to be able to be assertive and to make themselves heard. So yes, if you jump from job to job, you don't take, it is you're taking to everywhere. So even if it is you jump from relationship to relationship, you are the common denominator in that relationship or in that job place that you're going to, or in wherever you're running away from the confrontation. So that is something that will definitely impact on our life chances, because then we quit on things that we could have stayed, and worked through. But because we didn't have the resources within us to deal with them, we just abandoned it and just like gave up on that. Thank you, but you didn't add anything to that.
Yeah. Thank you for that that explanation. Yeah. You see, something that I really find hard, I would say, is now with the youth, a lot of blame is being placed on the youth. Whereas the way I look at it, it's not the youth. The youth need that support. But for me, I go back to parents, because parents struggle themselves to manage their own emotions. How then can they teach their children to manage emotions? They can't. So the children are just taking on the baggages of the parents plus theirs from their peer group and the environment. And they find it really, really hard. So what I encourage parents is, there's no late point to start learning. If you can hear this message, start straight away. I asked some questions before, but for those who you might be watching midway, I asked some questions before, and the questions are, do you have any recurring emotions, undesirable emotions that you experience. Why do you have this recurring undesirable experience? And how are those undesirable experiences impacting your life right now? This is for the parent. Write that down. Be honest with yourself, because you blaming the child learn whatever from. They learn from you, not necessarily what you tell them, but they observe what you do. Because if a parent is so stressed up that the child comes to ask for, mom, please, or dad, please, can I have money for, and you just dump your everything on the child, that, oh, you're asking me for money when I don't even have, soon there's no food in the house, will not have light, will not have water. How do you expect the child to understand even what you are going? They're just children. They don't know all the adult stuff. So what then is the child learning? First, they feel upset. Some children feel rejected. They feel betrayed, that if they cannot trust their parent, who will they go to? And that is a different kettle of fish, because children try to sort out their problems, because everyone has the ego. So that's when the ego comes in. And with the teenagers or the young people now, they sort out different ways to keep themselves safe. And unfortunately, it's not taking them to very productive places. So yeah, I'll go back to parents. Parents, there's no late place to start learning, because like myself, I started learning when my children I had all my children. So it was not like I knew how to manage my emotions before I started having children. No, I had to learn at some point. So there's always, when you make that decision, it is very important. You decide that, just two choices. Either you decide to change, and the change starts from you to affect your situation and your family, your environment, or you do nothing. Nothing will change, but over time, things will get really worse.
Yes, thank you, Nelly. It's important that we are open-minded and we want to learn, because there is nothing worse than doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. That is what is defined as insanity, and which is a mental health condition. So mental health is at the forefront of everything these days. Emotional well-being, mental health well-being. It's important that we manage our mental health, because that is at the center of everything else. Because if you are not fine in yourself as a parent, if you're not fine in yourself as a spouse, if you're not fine in yourself as a co-worker, as an employee, or as a manager, then you're going to struggle to be in relationship and to engage with people and to have better life chances. So yes, I agree with you that we are supposed to learn. And if something is recurring, it means that there is something that you need to deal with. You definitely need to deal with. So you said we need to push ourselves and stop punishing ourselves. Sorry, stop punishing yourself because of a feeling that you have. Now, is this like, if I feel so much love, is that punishment? Or is it that if I feel so much guilt, is punishment? What are we punishing ourselves? Because if it's in the joyous side, I would like to stay in the joyful environment every day, any day. So when you say stop punishing yourself for feeling a certain way, what do you actually mean?
Okay, thank you. Like, I will differentiate between love and fear. So we human beings are made of and from love, which is the ultimate. But then we develop fears, and there are these fears that emotions are mixed up with the fears. If it's the good one, the love, the one that comes from love, we want that because that is just who we are. But when it is the fear, you talked earlier on about depression. We keep thinking, and sometimes people be like, oh, I did this, it is my fault. Then shame comes in, guilt comes in. You just feel that, oh, there's just no point. And then you are giving up. The words you are telling yourself, that punishment, that's how you punish yourself, because it is punishment that leads to that depression, because it's what you tell yourself. You say you are not worthy. That's punishment. It doesn't, some go as far as physically hurting themselves. So that is punishment because it is self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. There is a question that I would like to ask, because there's this thing down now. People are just so angry these days. Everybody is angry. Everybody is on edge. People are fighting one another. The greatest fight of all, Harry and his family. So one thing that I wanted to ask, because everybody is talking about their truth, my truth, his truth, her truth, talking about their truth. And sometimes when something happens and we're not happy about it, we say, I've given them a piece of my mind. I've told them, I've this, I've that. What I'm driving at is, what is the difference between being aggressive and assertive? Because there is telling somebody your mind in a respectful way, and there's telling somebody your mind to show that you can. What is the difference between being aggressive and harsh and being assertive with respect?
Okay. Yeah. Being aggressive, that one, it comes from the work of the ego, because the ego is I am the boss. When I speak, nobody has to speak. You know, that I am, that boastful, because that is how the ego tricks us. Because the ego feeds on fears, which is why it will pretend as if it's giving you a solution. Because when you're aggressive, you go there with a yeah, and things like that. And then the other person might be like, ooh. So at that time, the ego is like, yes, because the other person might back off. The ego's aim is for you to get immediate relief. However, there's no solution, because that same situation will come again, probably in a different way or with a different person. So that is coming from a place of fear. Whereas being assertive, you might have your fears, but what you are talking about is not based on the fear. Because when you are being assertive, you don't mind to be told off. You don't mind to be told that you are wrong, because when you are being assertive, you have an open mind and you want to make things right instead for you to be correct. Because your interpretation will always be different from my interpretation because of your past experiences, your belief system, your mindset and values. But when you are assertive, you say things your own way, the way you understand them, but you are open to what other people's opinions are. But being aggressive is you want only yours, and yours is the only and the right way, and everyone else needs to accept. So you use a lot of force. So again, I always speak and I go back to the original, the two that are just two main emotions, fear and love. So I always go back to them. Yeah. So any action you are taking, if you are being honest, ask yourself or reflect, is it out of love or is it out of fear? Because sometimes people, without knowing the difference, present love in a fearful way and wonder why it is not actually love because there's fear behind the love.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We can go on and on and on and on, but we're going to have to come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for choosing this topic, discussing emotions and how our cultures affect our emotions, because there's certain cultures that are open to discussion. When we watch movies, we see from different cultures, you see people who are open. Let's talk. What's making you feel this way? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? They come from the perspective of, yes, conversations are good. But when you come from and look at another culture, where we come from, your father speaks, you stay stum. Like you're not allowed to talk back. You're not even allowed to express yourself. So children are seen and not heard in certain, even in England, yeah, previously, children were seen and not heard. So there's an evolution in the way knowledge has been developed, in the way people understand emotions and feelings. And when we come from that place where we have not been used to talking about these things, and you come to the environment where you are exposed to people talking about it openly, then it takes a while to adjust sometimes, because it takes a while to learn, to even know yourself, to know what your emotions are, to identify them, to give them a name. Because one of the exercises that Tony always makes people to do is identifying where you live emotionally. So knowing that this is yours, because we'll always tend to go back to that norm. So it's like a thermostat. If you go, you're too hyper, you're like, this is not me, you bring yourself down. If you go too low, you say, this is not me, you bring yourself up. So each person has an emotional home, so to speak, where you are as a constant. And whether it's a joyful place, it will depend on your personality. So extroverts will love it when they're all, introverts will come and discuss for a minute, and you're like, oh my goodness, you've taken all the life out of me. You sucked all my emotions. I need space to go and calm down. So it is important that we identify our emotional home, so that we know that this is where my comfort zone is. And when we're going out of it, we can courageously take a step to go, to explore outside, or when we've gone too far, now we know where to come back to. So it's important that we know where we stand with these things. Do you have any other thing you'd like to say before we come to a close?
Not particularly on this topic, because if I want, it's something that I'll always have things to talk about, but I'm mindful of time. And I'll just want to say, those who are watching, and if you watch after, we are here, we want to learn and share from each other. We are sharing our experiences, and we'd like to hear from you. If there's a particular topic that you would like us to discuss on, send us a message, send us a text, contact us, so then we can arrange and talk on that. Also, we would like to have you come and join us on this panel and share your experiences, because you know what? There are lots and lots of people out there who are struggling. And I'll keep on saying about this research that I read, that 85% of people globally do not know themselves. I don't know if anyone watching is surprised, but for me, I'm not surprised, because looking at the rate of conflict, I'm like, probably it will be up to 90%. But yes, so let's share, let's talk, let's help other people. Not everyone is courageous enough to talk. There are so many people who just listen. Whether you are talking or whether you are listening, knowledge is limited. What will take you to the next level is action. If you listen to anything that we talk on this show, take action. For instance, what I said earlier on today, the questions that ask yourself, what are the undesirable recurring emotions that you experience? Yeah, you can hear it, you know them, but take the action, write them down. So you keep on questioning yourself. You've taken that information out from your head to a piece of paper or a book. It is now external. You can see it. And when you see it on the paper or on a book, it feels different because it is not attached to you, which is just the same like emotions. We own emotions, but we are mere observers of our emotions. So yeah, I'll end there for this topic for today.
Thank you very much, Nelly. Yes. So before we finish, we have a well-being workshop coming up in the next week, starting next Friday. And I've put the link in the comment box for you to register, to sign up for the course. It will be in Rochdale at Hebron Church every Friday for the next 4 Fridays. And yes, come join us, or just look at our website on www.handhandcommunitycic.com. So come and join us and share the good news with all your friends. We would like to learn from you as well. Like Nelly said, if you want to come on the panel, we are very welcome. If there's a particular topic that you want us to explore, then send us a direct message or call one of us. All our details are online, so you know where to find us. So thank you for watching, and thank you again, Nelly, for this presentation and for choosing this topic for today. I'm looking forward to next week's topic. I don't know what that is, but
okay,
I'm sure
for next week's topic, it is how dun, 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 how behaviors impact and influence family members.
Ooh, that's a deep one. Ooh, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you all
That
so much, and have a nice evening or whatever time you are watching, and remain blessed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.